Hey everyone, my name is Yarisha Tiggs, and I'm the mental health program lead for CATA. Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of mental health for Black student athletes. Before we get started, I do want to say this is a presentation that I was supposed to give at the Black Student Athlete Summit, but unfortunately, due to my schedule, I was not able to attend. So we did wanted to put out some of the information that was going to be in the presentation out in this virtual presentation so that we still get some of the information out to those Black student athletes and those Black student athlete support teams and things of that nature. So, as we get started, what is mental health? Mental health is our emotional, psychological, and social well being. It affects the way we think, feel, and act. It helps determine how we handle stress, connect to others, and make choices. Mental health is viewed as a spectrum of well being that can change over time. Now, let me say this: it is completely normal to face challenges in your life at different points of your life. And so that's why when we look at it on that spectrum, it's completely normal for us to move up and down that spectrum depending on what's going on in our life and what challenges that we're facing and what is taking from our mental health and what is feeding into our mental health. Um, Mental health is a crucial aspect of overall well being that often goes overlooked, especially in the world of sports. Black student athletes face unique challenges and pressures that can significantly impact their mental health. So, mental health in the Black community. I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health in the Black community, but also mental health in the sports community. Mental health in the Black community: 63% of Black people view mental health conditions as a sign of personal weakness. This is also something, not this specific stat, but mental health being seen as a personal weakness can also be translated into the sports community. In the sports community, the stigmas and stereotypes surrounding mental health is that you need to be mentally tough. You have to, be on go mode. You signed up for this. This is the job that you signed up for. So you have to be on go mode. You have to perform at the highest level every night, every day. You can't have a bad day. You can't have an off day. Go, 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 go. And if you talk about mental health or say anything about your mental health, if you need a break because of your mental health, then you're automatically viewed as weak and not being mentally tough. But to continue with the mental health in the Black community, Black Americans are 20% more likely to experience serious mental health problems compared to other populations. Black youth who are exposed to violence are at greater risk for PTSD by over 25%, and Black Americans are more likely to be exposed to factors such as homelessness and exposure to violence, which increase the risk of developing mental health conditions. So for Black student athletes, you have, the Black community, the sports community, and the stigmas and the stereotype is there in both. So that's like super hard for Black student athletes to kind of find a space between their identities where they're going to feel accepted and heard with their mental health. Now, I will say within both communities, the Black community and the sports community, mental health is being talked about more. It's being spread more through those communities. It's still a lot of work needs to be done in both communities. But we are taking those steps to get the conversation started in those Black communities, in those Black family households, but also in the sports community across the different athletic departments, whether that's youth sports or collegiate sports. Now, not everyone suffers from mental illness, but everyone, and I mean everybody on planet Earth, has mental health. Again, we're looking at mental health. Is always going to be there. That spectrum. It may be positive, it may be negative. You may be up and down on that spectrum. Just depends on what you're going on in your life experience, the challenges you are facing within your life, and how that affects your mental health. Mental illness affects a person's ability to function over a long period of time. Mental illness is not the same as feeling sad or unhappy or stressed because of difficult situations. Mental illness encompasses disorders like depression, PTSD, and manic depression, which can be treated with psychotherapy or medications. Just as with medical issues, individuals with mental illness should be viewed as having a condition that may require treatment rather than being labeled mentally ill. So these are four challenges faced by Black student athletes. These four topics I kind of was able to group together over my experience of working with Black student athletes and just straight up asking them, what challenges do you face as a Black student athlete, but also information gathered from research as well. And so from experience with the Black student athletes, youth and collegiate level, and from the research, I kind of put everything within these four groups. The first one, having discrimination and racism. Black student athletes may experience discrimination and microaggressions both on and off the playing field, which can have a negative effect on their mental health. Now, I can tell you from my personal experience, I did experience racism, discrimination, microaggressions while playing my sports. And it did have an effect on me and my mental health, but also it had an effect on my team, and how my team played that game and how we, played the next few games and kind of how we viewed ourselves as a team because of it. So it definitely does does have an effect on your mental health and your overall well-being. Number two, stereotype threat. Black student athletes may feel the pressure to conform to stereotypes and expectations, leading to increased stress and anxiety. If you attend a historically white institution, you might feel that stereo threat a little bit harder than Black student athletes who don't attend a historically white institution. But feeling that pressure to conform to those stereotypes, be who they say you are, and just whether stereotypes can have it. Stereotypes can have a quote unquote positive outlook. So it can be like, oh, the stereotype of Black people can run very fast. That's not negative in a sense, but it's still a stereotype. And if you can't live up to that stereotype, it can have a negative effect. But depending on what the stereotype is, if you do live up to that stereotype, of course, it's going to have a negative effect. So just small things like that. And they're not necessarily small, but those things like that within stereotype and stereotype that can really affect one's mental health. Number three, being identity, balancing the demands of being a student and an athlete while also navigating issues related to race and identity can be overwhelming for Black student athletes. The intersectionality of gender, race, and athletic identity, and how the intersection of these identities affect the mental health of Black student athletes is important. So when we look at the identities and the intersectionality of Black student athletes, we have many, many identities coming together for one person. The mean in the middle for that one person. Now, the three things for Black student athletes that probably is consistent, with their identity is their gender, their race, and their athletic identity. There's a lot of different identities that can be added within that intersectionality, that have its own stressors and triggers and different effects on people's mental health, whether those effects be positive or negative effects. But those identities can be added into that intersectionality and does have an effect. And then you kind of think of it, okay, how does these certain things affect me individually? But then how does when it all come together, how am I being affected? How they overlapping within each other, right? To affect me, whether again that's a positive or a negative effect on me, but that intersectionality, that point where everything meets, is me, right? That intersectionality of my gender, my race, and my athletic identity meeting together in the middle, and these are my identities that affect me directly. And then fourth on the list, we have generational trauma. As individuals, a part of the African diaspora, we know trauma, whether we experience it firsthand or if it was extended to us by our ancestors and passed down each generation through generational trauma. Generational trauma begins when a group experiences a traumatic event that causes cultural, family, and economical distress. They are affected psych they are affected psychologically or physically. Excuse me. Um, and then the future generations may inherit that trauma and those health conditions. Why is mental health important for Black student athletes? Black student athletes may feel the pressure to maintain a facade of strength and resilience, leading them to suppress their emotions and avoid seeking help. The demands of being a student athlete, such as the training schedules and high performance expectations, can cause a accelerated amount of stress and anxiety. Without proper support, Black student athletes may be at higher risk for mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and burnout. Another reason why it's important for why mental health is important for Black student athletes is that it can have an impact on your athletic performance. So, mental health plays a significant role in athletic performance with factors such as stress, anxiety, and depression affecting an athlete's ability to perform at their best. By addressing mental health needs, student athletes can improve their performance and overall well being. And so, while we're on the topic of athletic performance and how it can be affected by mental health, I want to talk mental health versus mental performance. So, mental health and mental performance are interrelated and can be influenced by mental wellness and illness. However, performance does not always correlate with mental wellness or illness. So, on the last slide, I was saying how mental health can affect an athlete's performance. While this can be true, it also can be true that an athlete just might be struggling in their personal life, but performing well, not affecting their their performance at all on the field. But in their personal life, they might be struggling, and so that person might need mental health support. But on the other hand, an athlete may excel in their personal life but struggle with their performance, suggesting they may benefit from mental performance support. So again, just depends on the person. Each person is different. Um, Lately, a lot of schools and different teams have been putting in the work to get mental health support for their student athletes, but also mental performance work for their student athletes. So this is something you definitely should look into to see if your school offers any mental performance support for athletes, because it can kind of go hand in hand with the mental health, especially if your performance is being affected due to your mental health. But again, that's not always the case. It varies depending on the person, and the challenges, again, they are facing in their lives at that specific moment in their lives. This model shows that both health and performance impact one another and are influenced by mental wellness and illness. It is important to note that an individual's performance may or may not be correlated to their mental wellness or illness. Connecting Black student athletes with mental health professionals, access to resources, education and awareness, culturally competent care. Going back to access and resources, it is important to provide Black student athletes with access to mental health professionals who understand their unique experience and can offer specialized support. Um, it's important for Black student athletes to have resources, to know where their resources are. Where can they find the mental health support? Where can they find the mental performance support? Where can they find these things at? How accessible is it to them to find these things? That's important when connecting Black student athletes with mental health professionals. Education and awareness, increasing awareness about mental health and reducing the stigma surrounding seeking help. It's important that we, as the people here to support Black student athletes, we talk about the importance of mental health. It is a very important topic, and the more we talk about it, the more we can take away from the stigma about it being seen as a weakness, because that is not what it is, not even close to what it is at all. Culturally competent care. Mental health professionals working with Black student athletes should be culturally competent and able to address issues related to race, identity, and discrimination. So, not saying that a Black student athlete needs to work with a Black professional. It'd probably be nice if that Black student athlete can have a Black or brown professional to relate to, but that's not always the case. As long as the person is culturally competent, and understands the struggles of Black people, Black Americans, and Black student athletes, and can empathize with what is going on in the world and empathize with the student athlete, then I think that they should be able to successfully build a nice rapport and be able to help that student athlete. So moving forward, we need to prioritize mental health for Black student athletes. It is crucial for the overall well-being and success both on and off the field. We need to be connecting Black student athletes with mental health professionals who understand their unique challenges. We can support these individuals in achieving their full potential. We have to work together to elevate mental health for Black student athletes and create a more inclusive and supportive environment for all. Now, how should Black student athletes prioritize their mental health? First thing first, seek support. Black student athletes should not be afraid to reach out for help when they are struggling emotionally. This could mean talking to a therapist, counselor, coach, trusted family member, or friend, teammate, referee, whoever you trust in your life to have conversations with surrounding your mental health. It's so important that you reach out and seek support. And even if you're not fully comfortable going out and going to straight to a therapist, going to that coach who can connect you to the mental health counselor, who can connect you to, a specific therapist, maybe not connected with the school. But it's just important that you have those conversations and talk to those people and seek support when you need it so they can point you to additional resources that you may or may not need. Number two, practice self-care. It's important for Black student athletes to take care of their physical and mental well-being. This can include getting enough rest, eating well, exercising regularly, and engaging in activities that bring them joy and relaxation. So when you practice self-care, not every athlete is going to want to create hobbies that are athletic. Like they're not gonna, a hobby for them might not be golf. But then there's a lot of student athletes who hobby is to play golf. It's free. There's really no structure when they go and play. They're just playing it for fun. It's nothing too serious for them. Or student athletes that go and bowl for their free time and as their hobby. But it's also important for some student athletes to have some type of hobbies and practice some type of self-care that has nothing to do with sports at all, nothing to do with athletics at all. And that's okay. It kind of gives them a break and kind of separates the two, and allows them to draw that line and draw that boundary with their identity as a student athlete, their identity as an athlete, their identity as a student, and their identity as that person, Um, so when it comes to, getting hobbies and practicing self-care and doing things that you like that brings you joy, whether it's something that's athletic or non-athletic as a hobby, just doing something that allows you to be free and just, not having to engage that part of your mind that you usually have to engage when you are a student athlete. Number three, set boundaries. Black student athletes should learn to set boundaries in their personal and athletic lives. It is okay to say no to things that are overwhelming or do not align with your priorities. It's okay to say no. It's simple as that. Someone else can and will do it if you say no. Number four, address racism and discrimination. Systematic racism and discrimination can have a significant impact on the mental health of Black student athletes. It is important to address these issues and advocate for change within their athletic programs and intuitions. Number five, connect with community. Black student athletes should seek out supportive communities and resources that understand their unique experience and challenges. This may include joining different groups on campuses, participating in activism, or engaging with different cultural organizations. So something like a Black Student Union, or a diversity and advocacy type of organization group, or maybe just even joining a book club if you really like to read. Like if that's what you like to do in your spare time and you want more people around you to engage with you and talking about books, maybe you need to go join a book club or create your own book club at your university if you can. But just like overall, Black student athletes should make their mental health a top priority, just as they would their physical health. This can include practicing mindfulness, seeking therapy, and practicing self-compassion and self-acceptance. It is so important. It's so important that Black student athletes prioritize their mental health. It can be the difference between playing at an optimal level and just being okay in your sport for your team. It can be the difference between life and death for some people. Mental health is a very serious topic, and it's important for you as a student athlete and as a support staff for student athletes to really break that stigma and get Black student athletes the resources and help they need when it comes to their mental health. That is all I have. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this presentation. And I apologize again for not being able to give this full presentation at the Black Student Athlete Summit, but I hope that you were still able to take something away from this short little version of it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the comment section. Contact us via email, Instagram, LinkedIn. We also have a website, casanational.org. If you visit our website, you can learn more about our organization and what we do and what we stand for and how we are helping the Black student athletes in our communities. Again, thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your year and have a great, wonderful day. Prioritize your mental health. It's okay to say no. You are human. You don't have to be perfect. Bye.